Hey, welcome back guys. You're with Max, and today I'm going to do a repair on the rear guard of my friend's Harley Fatboy. I'd previously done artwork on it, and one day he had it at the pub. He was in the pub and I don't know what happened. Someone had got a bit close and scratched a bit of the clear coat off it. So we've taken the rear guard off it, and I'm going to take you through doing a repair. But because the paint, I used a specialized material called mutant crystal, it means that in order to fix that, I would have to redo the whole thing. So rather than that, what we decided to do is I'm going to sand back the damaged part, just feather it back, and I'm going to just do a little bit of primer, and we've come up with another piece of artwork which will cover the damaged part. So stick with me, have a look, and if you like the video, as always, please give me a thumbs up. It helps my channel, and subscribe. So this is the Harley, my friend's Harley. I'm doing the repair on his back guard. As you can see, I did feature it in another video of mine a while back, but I did all the artwork, and I don't know how well it picks up, but you can see on the tank there's a kind of like a textured effect. That's a mutant crystal. We just called it the we called it the Voodoo Harley. It's got all sort of voodoo themed artwork all over it. And here we go, the back guard, and this down here, I rubbed a little bit back by hand, but this is the scratch that someone put in it. Can you see the mutant crystal up close? It looks like ice crystals. It's pretty cool. So I'm opting to leave on the tail light, and I've got the number plate bracket there, but it doesn't really bother me. It's not in my way, so I'm going to mask it up. So I'll probably mask the top half and just leave the bottom bit clear to do the work on. But this is the artwork, the voodoo theme. And the other side. And all the mutant crystal. So the idea is to mask it all off and just leave this bit down the bottom here exposed, and I'm going to sand or feather back this area here. I'll do a little bit of putty or bog or whatever you want to call it, and I'll do rub it all back nice and smooth, and rather than spray on the clear coat, not the clear coat, I'm getting my words fuddled today, a little bit of primer, high field primer. Rather than mix up a quantity and putting it in the spray gun, I'm just going to brush it on because it's going to be sanded back anyway. Of course, there's always drying time between all the layers, and then once I've got it nice and smooth, I'm going to get the piece of artwork. It's going to be like a witch's face, or a wicked looking woman's face, and she'll be facing backwards, so if anyone's following him, they get to look at the woman's creepy face. So that's it. So let's get started. been really bad at wrapping Christmas presents and gifts for people, but I'm not really worried. All it's got to do is do its job and keep all the overspray off the tail light and the bits that I don't want to get overspray on. But that'll work. The idea is to, when you're masking something up, is to make sure that no overspray from primer, paint, clear coat can get onto like an area like this tail light. So you've got to check all your edges, make sure the edges are nice and neat. As you can see, I've gone right up to the edge of the red. And you just got to make sure little gaps like that, get your fingernail in there or a card or something so you can push the tape into the edge. Make sure the edges are all sealed. So this is the area I'm going to work on. Everything else, the sides up here, has all got to be covered so it doesn't get overspray when I'm painting. And like me, if you suck at wrapping up Christmas presents and birthday presents, that doesn't matter. As long as it does its job, it doesn't have to look pretty. Right, now I'm going to start sanding this back. As you can see, I've got the sander. I'm using in this case, I'm using a 180 grade. I'll go up to 240, then I'll go up. And the idea is to not sand through any of this. Unfortunately, I couldn't take this bit off because it's stuck on, so I've got to watch it and rub through the masking paper. I almost have here, I think. Got to be very careful. But the idea is, it's called feathering. There's the main culprit there, but I need to rub this back or feather it back. It'll probably go out to there, maybe there or there. But I've got to gradually get it to the hole to grow out to about there. So you've got softer edges, not hard edges like that ridge. masking tape over this area, just so if I make contact with it, it's not going to rip through so easily and score the surface underneath. But feathering is kind of like this. You can see the layers, you feather it back, so instead of feeling a hard ridge, it'll be a smooth transition. And then I've got to fill it with a bit of high fill primer. And you're going to get a little bit of compressor noise, unfortunately, because I'm sanding, so please bear with me. The whole shiny surface, I'm going to have to take the shine off the surface too, because when I do add, I'm going to put a little bit of putty or filler first, and then I'll sand it smooth. But before I apply any primer and any paint and clear coat, it will only adhere to a dull surface, a surface I've sanded. It's not going to stick to the shine, so the whole shine has to come off. I won't use the sander to do all up here. Basically, I don't want to be too aggressive with the sanding, but the idea is just to feather this back so it's not such a hard ridge. I've already said that, but once I've done that, then I'll fill it. All of this I'll do by hand. Right, as you can see, I've hand sanded the rest. I've gone over it with a 600 grade sandpaper by hand. You've got a curve on this guard. It kind of kicks out that way and over that way, so you have to be careful using a sander, a flat sander, because it will tend to take edges and eat holes in the paint. So what I've done, as I've said, I've feathered it, and that just means I've gone back through the layers. You can see the different layers there, and so now it's a smooth transition. It's not a hard transition from one deeper surface to the top surface. So it feels a lot better than it was. I'm going to use filler next, and after I've sanded back filler, then I'll use a high fill primer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a little bit of body filler on this. I'm going to use lightweight body filler. There's the filler, there's the hardener. So I'm going to mix a little bit. Don't put too much hardener in, and don't put too little. Too little hardener means the body filler is going to take forever to dry. You put too much, it's going to dry too quick, and also it can bleach paint slowly over time, but it can cause light patches, so you don't want to go too heavy on the hardener. Alright, as we can see, that's the body filler done. When you apply it, don't have it too thick and too lumpy, and make sure it's like spreading butter on a sandwich. Just make sure you spread it nice and thin and fairly evenly. You don't want to be having to sand through big thick clumps of the stuff. So that's just a very thin, light coat. I'll give that some drying time now, and when that's done, I'll go over it again with the sander and I'll repeat the process. So we'll get it nice and smooth. Sanded the bit that I filled in yesterday with the body filler. Once again, I very carefully use the sander not to dig into the masking paper or not to dig any holes into the paint. So I've done that. What this is high fill primer. It's a primer that has a lot of body with it. And the one I've used here, well, it's hard to see because it's got primer all over it obviously, but it's U-Pol, and that's a very good high fill primer to use. So I've mixed it in the cup here, the measuring cup, and I've just used the brush very gently to just paint it on, not too thick, and I'll probably go over it a couple of times, and then once I've got enough material, right, as I was saying before the compressor cut in, once I've got enough primer on here and there's been enough drying time, then I'll hand sand the primer until I get it nice and smooth. And then once I'm satisfied there's a nice flat surface, then the fun can begin. I can start doing the artwork. Oh, sorry, I've got to correct myself there. I said U-Pol. This is the brand that I'm using here. This is the hardener, but that's the brand there. So, yeah, my boo-boo. And if you're only using a small amount of material, you've just got to mix a minimal amount of primer or whatever material you're using, if it's paint or clear coat or whatever. I mean, clear coat's different. You have to clear the whole thing, or in this case, this area here. But you still only need a very minimal amount. So rather than wasting all of your expensive materials, be very minimal when mixing it up. You don't want to be chucking out, not too bad. I've only got a small amount here, but you wouldn't want to be chucking out half a cup or a whole cup, considering the prices these days. So once that's dry, then we'll move on to the next phase. So what I'm doing first is, I'm working from my head at the moment, but I just wanted to cover the primer. But with this picture I'm doing, I wanted a little bit of darkness introduced down the borders and around the bottom. And what I'll do is, like with a lot of my art, I start with a white blob if I'm going to do a face. Sometimes I'll get a pencil. Once I've sprayed a blob of white, I'll pencil in basic features of the face I'm going to paint. So the black here is just basically a background colour. Give it a little bit of depth. Now I remember the face that I picked out for this, well, my friend picked it out and showed me, and I said, yep, that's the one. It's in my head, and I know I've got it somewhere. It's either on my phone or on the computer, but I'll find that in a sec. But what I need to do is just to start with the shape of the face, basically, just with a rough blob of white. It's like an oval shape that I'm going to do.